Washington and left people scattering as the game was called off due to a disturbance that occurred midway through the third quarter. There was no score at the time of the disturbance, but Washington was rewarded a 1-0 victory due to the Pine Forest players leaving the field after the incident occurred. The Florida High School Athletic Association is reviewing the incident. At the Little League World Series, Louisiana defeats Curaçao 8-0 to claim the state's first Little League World Series title. In the NFL preseason, the Buccaneers defeat the Cleveland Browns 13-12. The New Orleans Saints defeat the New York Jets 28-13. The Miami Dolphins defeat the Jacksonville Jaguars 22-7. And the Washington Redskins defeat the Atlanta Falcons 19-7. And in a shocking announcement, Indianapolis Colts quarterback Andrew Luck has announced his retirement from the NFL, citing his career being plagued with injuries, taking a mental toll on him. Luck was the number 1 overall pick in the 2012 NFL Draft. I'm Davis Allen with your sports update on ESPN Pensacola 1330 FM 99.1.
And welcome into Roll Tide Radio right here on ESPN Pensacola 99.1 and 1330 AM. I am Chad Berliante. Glad to be with you as always. Just don't tell my wife I'm hosting the show as an LSU alumni. We're going to have some fun here today, breaking down more of the Alabama Crimson Tide's game, where I think the fans know right now, get themselves a $40 ticket, Chick-fil-A biscuit, or, there's a rivalry going on in the biscuit world right now with chicken biscuits and chicken sandwiches, so we'll see. But over there at Chick-fil-A Stadium, the Chick-fil-A kickoff against Duke. Now, this is not basketball, and Daniel Jones, a rare sight for a quarterback who is the top-tier guy taken off the board from a school like Duke. But the Alabama Crimson Tide, they come in a situation where they should get the job done, a 35-point favorite for this Saturday's kickoff. You can catch that game right here on your home for everything football in Pensacola, ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM and 99.1 FM. Well, today's Roll Tide Radio is brought to you by our good friends at Gordon Auto Wholesale, founded on trust, integrity, and respect. And Eddie Gordon, a lifetime Alabama fan, always is welcome to come in and talk a little college football with us. Give him a call today at 479-92,000 is the number, 479-92,000. Look, got a little choked up even saying it. Look, Eddie Gordon has been a fan of taking care of the people. It is a opportunity for you to get something at a wholesale price and take care of somebody that even can't afford to get into the car of their dreams. You can get a great financial structure plan going and get you in a car to get your family around. School's starting back up. The games are getting rolling. And with over 30 years, they've served the area as one that is taking care of the people. Just like what we're trying to build here at ESPN Pensacola. Gordon Auto Wholesale has been there, over 250 vehicles in stock, third-row SUV, trucks, whatever you need, they've got it for you. Check them out today. And Carfax checked and everything you need. Gordon Auto Wholesale, proud sponsor of our Roll Tide radio show. Well, over the next hour, we're going to talk a little Alabama Crimson Tide football. We'll get into the history of what Nick Saban has dominated. And there's never going to be something like it. When it comes to sports, a lot of times we know that there's great teams. There's great fans. But very rarely in anything in life, there's competition level where you look back and you go, every single year, no matter what the change, the turnover, everything changes and you still have the same product. Think about it that way. What Nick Saban and the Alabama Crimson Tide have done is nearly impossible. As a New England Patriot fan, I'm used to being the guy in the NFL from Boston walking around where some kid was going to Peg Leg Pete's for lunch the other day, and he screamed out, "Cheetah!" And I'm sitting there looking at him like, yeah, what's your team? I see a Redskins hat. Good luck on your season, buddy. But when it comes down to being a champion, most teams know if you're a champion and you're not one of those smiley, hugging, looking up every touchdown and putting your hands up in the air like everybody wants to be you, you're hated. Alabama and the New England Patriots have had that role, that reputation over the last decade because everybody and their mama wants to be them. 13 years, Nick Saban has won 5 titles. Over the past 10 seasons, 127-13. That's an average season for the quick math, and maybe you just got back from the weekend and you already got Labor Day on the mind, and you're like, I don't want to do math. 12-1 on an average season. Not too shabby. Nobody has ever set the bar, especially out of the SEC West Conference. Out of the division, the SEC West Division, out of the SEC Conference, which is the toughest in football and has been the toughest in football over the past 8 to 9 years. And you just pencil in Alabama and everyone else. And look, Auburn's won their national titles. They've given them some fair shakes in the Iron Bowl. Listening to Feinbaum right about 4:48 around Iron Bowl weekend, and you're going to get some brawls on air, some verbal altercations going on. Good old Phyllis and all the folks throughout the years. But the difference is every single season, and I'm speaking to you Bama fans because I've had a chance to host a show on a network where a Northerner came around, and now he's been the host of an area that lives, breathes everything SEC football for the past 7 years. In Drive Time Radio, now simulcast with Blab TV and the opportunity across the board. And one of the things that I've noticed is if Alabama loses one game, it's a bust of a season. And it's true. Think about it last year. Most people's mindset is, man, we got to get back and win. Nick Saban even used the words, reestablish our brand. For 4 months of the season, the Alabama Crimson Tide set every single Crimson Tide record possible on the offensive side of the ball. For points, for yards. Personally, I think Tua Tagovailoa should have been, after you figure out how to pronounce his name as a fan, or just call him Tua. That's the easiest way in the South. Good old Tua. When he goes out there and plays, what people realize is that he set records and consistently was the best quarterback. Kyler Murray was scrambling around there, making plays, back-to-back Heisman winners for Oklahoma. So now Alabama's former quarterback in Jalen Hurts has some pretty big shoes to fill out there, trying to become the third. Probably not likely. But last year, they were dominating teams, pulling teams' starters by halftime. Ole Miss, I remember watching that game with a couple Crimson Tide fans. They score a touchdown. Jordan Ta'amu scores, and man, this might be a game. Yeah, 63 straight points later, it's a blowout. People were trying to make a big deal of a halftime score against the Citadel when they end up winning by 40. The Alabama Crimson Tide continue, and it's not going to change, even though when you look at their roster, when you look at their athletes, they've lost a lot. But to go back to what I was saying earlier, if you have any company in the foundation and you lose your, let's go with a car dealership, you lose 5 or 6 of your sales employees. You lose the one guy that is used to giving every oil change and doing all the auto repairs. You lose the guy that drops off all the new inventory. You lose your pre-owned guy. You lose Sally in accounting, and you lose Jim, who does PR. You lose all of them every 2 or 3 seasons, and you continue to be the best in the area. Think about it that way. You probably, if you're out there listening, and I just use this example as our title sponsor is Coronado Wholesale. It's done an incredible job in the area. But imagine if you lose all of those people all the time, and then every single year lock and reload as the best. Somebody's out there probably laughing, saying this isn't even possible. Well, that's exactly what happens with Alabama. It doesn't matter if Mike Locksley goes to Maryland, and frankly, I think that's a good move. Lane Kiffin decides to head out there for FAU to get a better tan in Boca. Doesn't matter if Jim McElwain's hanging out with sharks or a guy like Doug Nussmeier, we realize isn't that good of a football coach when he leaves. Kirby Smart goes to his alma mater at Georgia, where Jeremy Pruitt takes another job somewhere else and now is a coach of a rival team in Tennessee. No matter what happens, no matter who is the coordinator, consultant roles, with guys like Sarkisian hanging out looking to tap the keg. Doesn't matter who's on the sidelines. The one consistent is Nick Saban and a team that rotates a bunch of five-star recruits. And his process is easy. His process is easy. Ask any guy around here, from a Trent Richardson. I talked to Isaiah Buggs last year, who had a chance to get drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I remember sitting there, and it's pretty simple. It's not some crazy method, not some crazy chart where you put a bunch of things into some formula and you come out like that stat class you never wanted to take in high school. It's pretty simple. He walks in and says, son, would you rather, or daughter, right? It's equal opportunity. Hey, son, ma'am, would you like to play for a team where you're going to be in the spotlight in primetime TV for over 50% of your career? Where most teams get, on average, 2 or 3 primetime spots. Primetime, like Deion Sanders. You get 2 or 3 games. Like, even though Florida and Miami wasn't one of those kind of games where a lot of people would look at wanting to put back in primetime, if they didn't have to, the ratings were high. Everybody was ready for college football, and people were excited. The game itself, yeah, if anyone was sitting there and goes, is that the product? Are those the passes? Ugh. How many PIs can you get on one final drive? If you're asking all those questions, no. I don't think the college football season is going to go down that route. And frankly, I think most people left knowing that was not a game between two top teams. Florida was ranked 8th, but there's been many teams that start in preseason polls at the top and finish 4-8. Over the past 10 years, there has been 9 teams that have been in the top 10 that have finished with records of 4-8 or worse. Let me repeat that. It's been 9 teams in the past 10 years that have started in the top 10 and finished worse than 4-8. 4-8 or worse. Just goes to show you, you can completely tank. Things can happen when nobody's expecting it. But one of the things about Alabama is, you know, this year, when you look, and once again, Las Vegas has them set their over-under win total at 11 games. And I think if it's not 11.00001, where you get a push at 11 games unless one gets rained out, and luckily they don't have as much land like we do when you look at a game in Gainesville or Orlando, home of my fake national champions, go Knights. No matter what it is out there, Tuscaloosa is a little safer from a game not getting canceled from a hurricane. They're not in a dome, so there's not going to be one of those AC leaks that cancels a game on a freakish kind of nature. But what we do know is if you get Alabama at 11, it's hard any year to look at their schedule and expect them to lose one game, let alone, God forbid, they lose 2. So to me, pretty much you'd be looking good in that situation across the board. The Alabama Crimson Tide come into this season after a season last year where they played, in many opinion, more than one national title type game. During the regular season, there wasn't that game, that scare, like most people. Scare for a half, but like I said, Citadel doesn't count when you beat them by 40 in the second half. Really wasn't an ending story that they could write in the paper. A lot of tweets going out right after the first 30 minutes. I'm sitting there, are you seeing this? I'm like, yeah, let's wait till the second half and see what happens. But when you look at the games, there wasn't that Auburn Iron Bowl moment where you thought they were going to lose. Even Texas A&M, who's getting their act together. We talk to legendary Alabama coach Gene Stallings each and every week on the show. And he went to Texas A&M. And Texas A&M is pushing some people to the limit. 7 overtime against LSU. Moment where they were sitting there with an opportunity to win that game against Clemson. But against Alabama, another dominant performance. And remember, We always live in the now. We live in everything. Look, marriage, life, anything going on. You could have 20, 30 years great of marriage, and then all of a sudden, or marriage, whatever you want to choose. But then all of a sudden, one thing goes wrong, and whoop, that's all you're going to be thinking about. You could love a teacher for 7, 8 years, and all of a sudden, whoop, do one thing wrong, they're out the door. That's the world we live in today. Your whole career, one moment. A Brett Favre tweet. Somebody sends a picture like Greg Oden, they shouldn't. Nobody thinks about Cosby and pudding snacks now. They think of something else going on and never let him open up a winery. Everybody lives in the now of what happens, and sometimes for good reason. But when it comes to Alabama, last year was one of the greatest regular seasons in the history of college football. They went 14-0. They were ranked number 1 the entire season, and their offense scored more points than ever. The difference was one moment. Clemson did something that is so rare. They stood up to Goliath as another Goliath and said, no, today you're not running it down our throats. And look at the play calling. I think if any Alabama fan is out there listening, you understand that one of the big reasons they lost that game was because Alabama continued to do what they did all season long, and it looked like it wasn't working out. And people were saying, change up the play calling, do this. But against other teams, the offensive line push from guys like Pensacola's own Alex Leatherwood, the push from Jonah Williams, and all the guys up front, it was different. And one thing that Alabama is not used to doing is having someone go right back at them and knock them out. They're used to having all of the guys that they play against run them over and score a bunch of points, sing a little Rammer Jammer, and hear Roll Tide. And one team stood up and said, we got 4 or 5 guys going to the NFL on that defensive front, which actually brings up a big question because we know the Alabama Crimson Tide are going to lock and reload. We know there's more 5-stars. Guys are going to be stepping in this year that you've never heard of. Yes, remember, you had a Josh Jacobs go to the NFL, but he wasn't really a star in that team until he got a chance from Scarborough and Harris. And before that, the Yeldons, the Lacey's, the Trent Richardsons, the Coffees before that. Rashard Evans was replaced by Dylan Moses. Evans before that had his C.J. Mosleys. Everybody has a lineup of guys waiting to be the next big guy. Nobody knew who DJ Payne or Darius Payne or any of the guys up front from what we saw from Aldrick Robinsons to every single player along a long, long list of guys that made an impact. Quinnen Williams wasn't known as a top 5 pick at the beginning of last season. There's always one guy that steps up and becomes something even more special than you ever knew. And with the number of linebackers coming back healthy this year, and with the number of guys up front waiting to step in and be that next 5-star that you've heard of, I'm not going to lie, this is Alabama's one of the younger teams, but anybody using that saying about Alabama, this being one of the younger teams, hasn't watched Alabama over the past decade because it's just another 5-star. Think about the receiving corps. You had a true freshman quarterback 2 years ago winning a national title. You had true freshmen like Ruggs and Judy. If it wasn't for the rule, Jerry Jeudy would have been a starter in the NFL. Might be the best receiver right now in all of college football with Justin Ross. Insane talent. They got weapons all over that field. And it's just the next guy waiting to line up and do it again. And don't worry about Duke. Hopefully this is just a good enough game for everybody not named Alabama to watch and enjoy. But as a 35-point spread, here's one thing. Here's a little ditty for you as well. The Alabama Crimson Tide against teams that are from a Power 5 conference with a spread of over 30 points. They cover 86%. Teams that are not from a Power 5 conference, teams that they're used to paying, they only cover 27% of spreads over 30 points. They go easy on the little dudes sometimes, pulling their starters. Now, a lot of those over 30 might be about 55-point spreads, so it's a little different. But I think that Duke in this one, I wouldn't be shocked at all if you're seeing a final score of 63-7. One of these type of scores that we're used to seeing them take care of teams like Louisville by 60, take care of teams like USC by 50, and USC even made a big bowl game by the end of the year. Going to the Rose Bowl. Talked about going to a college football playoff after the Crimson Tide beat them 2 years ago by 50 points. Yep, in his 13th season, this one has the chance to be another one of those that we just pencil them and Clemson in. You could be waking up 4 months later and expect the same exact result, and you probably wouldn't be wrong. Clemson, Alabama, and then maybe sort of ... Georgia with a chance for the national title. When we come back, we'll continue our look into the Alabama Crimson Tide schedule. We'll talk about some of the local events going on, some of the places you need to be for all your Alabama activities, and over the years, some of the biggest moments from the Crimson Tide. This is Roll Tide Radio, right here on ESPN Pensacola 1330, 99.1 FM. Chad Brillante coming back for more.
Gordon Auto Wholesale says yes. No credit, bad credit, bankruptcies, no problem. Over 250 vehicles in stock. Third row SUVs and trucks. Everyone's approved. Gordon Auto Wholesale is the bank and can help you get into a nice, clean vehicle. Carfax checked. Need a new car? Gordon Auto says yes. Can't buy one from the other dealers? Come see Gordon Auto Wholesale on Palafox just 2 blocks south of Airport. Or call 479-9200. That's 479-9200.
If you have frequent heartburn, take control of it with Prilosec OTC instead of stashing antacids everywhere, like in your junk drawer, buried under old batteries and hotel pens, or in your purse, hiding in the one pocket you won't check. You even have antacids on your nightstand, which are very hard to see in the dark. It's time you stopped stashing antacids and started taking Prilosec OTC. 1 pill a day, 24 hours, 0 heartburn.
It's possible with Prilosec OTC. Use as directed for 14 days, not for immediate relief.
At Indeed, we believe a resume is a great way to see an overview of a candidate, but you're not hiring a resume, you're hiring a person. That's why Indeed offers tools that help bridge the gap between a candidate and the resume, like skill tests, which let you actually see a candidate's abilities in action to make sure they're a good fit for the job. See beyond the resume with Indeed. Experience Indeed for yourself today and get a free sponsored job upgrade on your first posting at Indeed.com/promo. Terms and conditions apply.
Football season never ends on Talk Football with Coach K.
Stidham is tearing it up at New England. He may well be the incumbent to Tom Brady there.
Former head coach of the Buffalo Bills, Coach K brings his expertise as he breaks down the game, the players, the coaches, and the front office. Plus, high-profile interviews from the biggest names in football. Talk Football with Coach K every weekday from noon till 1 on ESPN Pensacola 1330 FM 99.1. Sports are live and local on ESPN Pensacola 1330 FM 99.1. Be a part of the show. Call or text at 263-1330.
And welcome back to Roll Tide Radio right here on ESPN Pensacola 1330 AM, 99.1 FM. I am Chad Brillante. What a beautiful day. Yeah, right. Unless you are helping build Noah's Ark, it is not a beautiful day today. And it has been one of those kind of days where it's a good day to be inside, listening to a little radio, and having some fun and getting set to go for the football season. You can also always check us out by streaming us if you're at work. Tell your friends. You could always be by a computer, by any of your mobile devices, and watch us on Facebook Live and YouTube streaming each and every day. I'll be back with the Sports Drive coming up after the Paul Feinbaum show that I'm sure you're going to hear a little more Alabama football and more on that Florida versus Miami game where, heck, sometimes a win is a win. And It's better to get a win as a win early in the season. Like a win is a win where you don't look good, nobody looks good, it's a bad product, isn't always fun in the final game of the season. But at the beginning of the year, it's all right. Nobody's going to be talking about Florida versus Miami in this game 3-4 months from now, and hopefully not. That was a brutal game. But overall, it was a W for Florida. They found a way to escape and get the W. And every single year, teams that end up having a good or bad season have at least one or two of these games. And they found a way to pull it out. A few plays go different. A few play calls go different. Jalen Hurts doesn't come in, step up, be the man that he was. As the SEC Offensive Player of the Year, the Alabama Crimson Tide are not in a national title game. They don't get to go to the college football playoff after the comeback win in the second half against Georgia last year. You need those games, and there's always going to be a close one. Heck, doing against Georgia, though, a little bit different, and that was a good football game overall. Well, the schedule this year looking pretty solid, and, most teams when we're breaking down, because our college football shows we're doing on Monday, the Alabama Crimson Tide. On Tuesday, our folks out there that are listening for the Florida Gators. Wednesday, Florida State football talk. This week just making the announcement James Blackman will be the quarterback. No shock there. He's been hitting up meal plan and put on about 30 LBs. Good for him. They needed it. Nobody wants to play in a tough conference at $168 at quarterback, especially when you're 6'5". Get cats out of trees and weigh that much, not a good idea. On Thursdays, we're going to be working with the Auburn Tigers, and then Fridays down the road with LSU. So by the end of the season, we will have all the shows, and college football will continue. But right now, one of the keys is every Monday after the games, we'll break it down. This week, first week where we're getting set for the season, and most of the time when you're looking at a schedule, there's about 3 or 4 games where you go, crap, man, this is a toss-up. Alabama's one of those rare birds where that's really not the case. Duke, New Mexico State, at South Carolina, they tried. I heard Herb Street and some of the guys trying to make a case for this. That's just trying to have conversation to bring up something to be relevant. That's one thing I said a long time ago I'll never do, is just throw something out there just to get clickbait. Not going to be Skip Bayless of the world and not tell you that pick a game on their schedule that bodes well for the other team winning if it's not true. And people are trying to pick that game right there at William Bryce. September 14th is the game. South Carolina, Jake Bentley going to roll in. That Bentley's going to look more like a broken-down Geo Metro than an Isuzu that went out of stock. That's been broken down with 200,000 miles per year because it's not going to happen. Southern Miss, Ole Miss. It's going to be 5-0 real quick. At Texas A&M October 12th. It really depends at that point, the confidence meter of the Texas A&M Aggies. If Kellen Mond's playing different football and they have beaten Clemson at that point, which I don't see happening, especially in Clemson. But if they are at that time, it'll be a completely different type of game. But I think Alabama will take care of them like they always have, and all of a sudden now it's 6-0. Tennessee, Arkansas at home. Next, you're 8-0. This year, LSU is at home. And I got to choose my words wisely because, like I said, most of my house is draped in purple and gold. And when I say that, I don't want to be microwaving one of those Swanson dinners. I like the crock pot chicken. So I got to once in a while say go Tigers. But in this case, with the Roll Tide radio show, I'm going to say it how it is. Alabama in Tuscaloosa, if they stay healthy, take care of that game, and it's not a problem. 9-0 at that point. At Mississippi State, there's no Fitzgerald or Dan Mullen showing up. They just got themselves in a little bit of trouble with some probations. Yay, they're going to take away some wins that actually happened. If you're going to have something and get probation, you might as well that. I've never been when they say you took away someone's Heisman, like Reggie Bush. We saw him walk across the stage. No matter what you say, you're not taking away that moment from fans. No asterisk in the opinions of the people watching. So in that case, at Mississippi State, not the same team. They take care of it. 10-0. Western Carolina next, and then at Auburn. So once again, with Vegas having Alabama at over under 11 wins, there's only 3 potential possibilities of the Crimson Tide slipping up in the regular season. They don't have to play Georgia this season. They don't have to play Florida or even a Missouri on the other side. They get South Carolina, and they always have Tennessee. And I'm looking at this right here and saying, look, don't worry at all. Tennessee last year got so much praise as Jeremy Pruitt, a former Crimson Tide player, was part of the defensive backs coach, a great recruiter, worked his way up to defensive coordinator, part of that national championship team, played for Gene Stallings. Seems to be doing it right. He got tons of praise last year for going 5-7 with the Volunteers. That team is not walking into Tuscaloosa this season or any time I could see in the next couple years and beating the Crimson Tide. So at Texas A&M and at Auburn, and I'm even going to throw in a potential, who knows, LSU's confidence in Bryant Denny. All three of those games are completely pushing it at Auburn this season when they're trying to figure out who their quarterback will be by the end of the season. Bo Nix will get that starting nod for the first time as a true freshman since 1946 for that squad. But going up against Tua, throwing to guys like Devonta Smith that helped them win a title, Henry Ruggs, Jerry Jeudy, all those teams, all those guys, probably not a chance. Najee Harris, a 6'2", 230-pound bruising junior who has played, but now will get his fair shake at getting the bulk of the carries. Their offense, like I said last year, scoring 46 points a game. Passing totals. Think about all of the great quarterback names in the history of Alabama football. Joe Namath, Bart Starr, A.J. McCarron, Jay Barkers, the David Palmers, all the guys, even what we saw in the recent times with watching some of the guys come in and win some games, big games like Coker and Sims. But the greats, the elites, the big names. There's never been a Heisman Trophy winner from the Alabama Crimson Tide at quarterback. You had Mark Ingram, who won the Heisman Trophy at running back. You had guys like Tua, who clearly, in my opinion, was the best player and should have got it last year. But by the end of the season, I understand the injuries got to him. And Kyler Murray, he was also a deserving candidate. I would have gone with Tua, though. They were top 5 in passing, top 6 in the nation in total offense. And this is talking about some of the games where they pulled their starters against some of these teams out of the Big 12 and Pac-12 who are just racking up 600-yard passing games because the final score, when you're falling asleep on the couch at 9:30 at night, final score of these games are 55-51. Mike Leach, run like a chicken with your head cut off and score a bunch of points. They won a couple games last year, 29-0 at LSU, 24-0 at Mississippi State. But the games were not close. Closest regular season ball game last year was 22 points. And that was against Texas A&M. So the closest regular season game last year for him was more than a 3-touchdown win. And I don't see anything changing this year. If you're an Alabama fan, you're just waiting until that moment where you get to meet against Georgia. It's not going to be Florida after seeing that first week. I think everybody can agree. Even Florida fans, let's humbly take a breath, calm down, and realize that Georgia's still a better football team after what we saw from Felipe Franks, and that's pretty much clear. But the Alabama Crimson Tide at number 2, they return their core guys on offense. And on defense, look, guys like Raekwon Davis, Anthony Jennings coming back after an injury, Dylan Moses, yeah, losing Josh McMillan, but that's not a big deal compared to overall losing a guy on offense that's going to change the dynamics. They've got enough players in the secondary, Patrick Surtain, Trevon Diggs. These guys will be able to make plays. It is a younger team. And the injuries have happened during the offseason, losing a guy like McMillan. They've lost a number of guys to injuries, as many teams have. But I don't think it's anybody that's going to hurt the overall process because based on their schedule, I don't see any games being within 2 touchdowns all season long. And that's not being a homer. That's being realistic. They're that good. Jedrick Willis Jr., the right tackle on the team, talking about the Alabama factor. He said commitment, discipline, effort, toughness, pride, and then developing yourself to be relentless for 60 minutes in the ball game. Going back to what Nick Saban said, you're going to be on prime time 7-8 games compared to everybody else at 2 or 3. You're going to be playing in front of 102,000 that know and expect that you're going to win. 8-0 coming out of the SEC, 14-0 in the regular season last year. Best offense in program history, returning pretty much that offense. The wide receiving core and the throws from Tua will be scary. And I'm excited because as a fan of football, you should want to watch greatness as a fan. And I think especially with only 3 years, because look, Judy, Ruggs, and Devontae Smith are all juniors, and they're all going to be headed pro more than likely. Ruggs and Judy for sure. And Tua will be leaving because right now he is projected, according to Mel Kiper, the number 1 pick in the 2020 draft, and that shouldn't shock anyone. For the first time in 9 years, they're ranked number 2 in a poll. But preseason for a team like Alabama means absolutely nothing because they can just wait. And if they didn't have a rating the whole entire season for just bragging rights around the water cooler, we're just waiting until round 5 between them and Clemson. Both Clemson and Alabama have won both 2 of the last 4 national titles each, which equals out to quick math, all 4 national titles. And I don't think it's going to change anytime soon. When we come back, we're going to talk a little more on the Alabama Crimson Tide, their upcoming game against Duke. We'll hear from Nick Saban and what he had to say leading up until the game. It's been another exciting offseason. This year, a little bit different from the mindset, though, because after a tough loss, fans have been just chomping at the bit to have another shot at getting a shot to win it all. 5 national titles under the 13 seasons and expected another one this year with many across the nation, including most of the fans in Tuscaloosa. We're coming back. It's Roll Tide Radio, brought to you by Gordon Auto Wholesale. Check them out today. As Eddie Gordon, a lifelong Alabama Crimson Tide fan, give him a call at 479-9200. Customers keep on coming back, and that's one thing. If you know you get people coming back each and every year, 2 blocks south of Airport on Old Palafox, clean cars, trucks, SUVs, Carfax checked, you know they're going to take care of you and get you in a car that you can afford at Gordon Auto Wholesale. Proud sponsor of Roll Tide Radio. We're coming back for more right here on ESPN 1330, 99.1 FM.
You wanted a toy at the store when you were a kid. Mom said no. You wanted a date as a teenager. The homecoming queen said no. Now, as an adult, you want a car, and all the dealers keep saying no. Finally, there's someone in Pensacola who will say yes. It's Gordon Auto Wholesale on Old Palafox, just 1 block south of Airport Boulevard. Now with a huge selection of third-row SUVs in stock. No credit, bad credit, repos, no problem. Say yes to Gordon Auto Wholesale. Call them at 850-479-9200, 479-9200, and hear yes right now.
Today, business happens here, and virtually anywhere. Because today, innovative companies are reinventing the way business happens. And they need people who can keep up. With the expertise and technology to get packages to over 150 million delivery points. So, who can help you deliver the future of commerce? The United States Postal Service. See why we deliver more e-commerce packages to homes than anyone at USPS.com/future.
Sports are live and local on ESPN Pensacola 1330 FM 99.1. Be a part of the show. Call or text at 263-1330.
Welcome back to Roll Tide Radio right here on ESPN Pensacola 1330, 99.1 FM. Chad Brillante with you here on this rainy Monday. Hope you're enjoying your week, getting set to go for the first full week of college football, and it's back. I know people talked about the ratings, and look, you can slice anything you want. You could be a glass half full, glass half empty, but one thing is, if that glass is full of something you like, people are going to be paying attention to it regardless of the optimistic or pessimistic views. Think about it that. You know, that's another spin that nobody was thinking of. Everybody wants to talk about the glass being half full or half empty, but the difference is some people are more worried about what's actually in the glass. And that's college football for you, because that's that bushwhacker topped off on a perfect 80-degree day with a nice breeze coming off the Gulf, listening to some real good music, watching your favorite college football teams, and celebrating your team to victory. That was what college football was in the glass. So I'm reading the stories today. Florida and Miami, highest rated games, da-da-da-da. Yeah, the game wasn't that great, but everybody wanted what was in that glass. Regardless of the optimistic or pessimistic view you have on football today, everybody wanted what was in that glass. Wasn't some like one of those protein shakes with about 9 greens in them that you're only doing for a diet plan for about 2 weeks. And you're only doing that to make people feel good because they bought the $60 thing of protein. The difference is in this game, everybody wanted to watch that Florida and Miami game. The overall game wasn't that great, but now football fans in general can move on from that game and focus more on all the games ahead, which is a number of big games across the slate. Now, Alabama-Duke is not one of those games from across the country. I think most Alabama fans would say they hope this isn't a great football game. For them, they hope to be seeing some of the guys getting a shot in about the third quarter to start putting in some backups. Duke's secondary is very weak this year. They lost 3 guys in the secondary, and the core strength of Alabama, which in the past has been a core strength, but I would say I'm not going to use the word underutilized, because when you're winning games by 40, 50, winning national titles, everybody is utilized to the right percentage, because who are you or who am I to judge somebody that's winning a title? Just because Julio Jones down by the schoolyard isn't catching 9 catches a game. O.J. Howard isn't getting thrown to 10 times. They didn't need to, because they're going to run it right down your throat, and that's what they're used to doing. But this year, they've changed that dynamic. This year, the offense, spreading the football and getting it downfield, is one that you're going to see a lot more of. Even more than last year, that set Alabama Crimson Tide records. 6 of the 11 returners on offense. Most of the key, and one right here, 6'6". He's put on about 15 pounds from Booker T. Washington right there. Alex Leatherwood. He's now a junior. 6'6", 315, and he'll be starting at left tackle, protecting the blind side. Well, actually, that's not true. Just expect the left tackle to do that, but Tua is actually a southpaw. So unless he flips around and does everything from the other shoulder. You get used to saying that with left tackles. Come on. But as a southpaw, no. The blind side would be the right tackle, and that would be Willis, or Jedrick Wills. But you got guys up there across that line. Once again, offensive line, average weight, 321 pounds. Roll Tide. They're not missing a meal plan, and they never will. But even guys like Jalen Waddle, that we didn't talk about a ton, when you have Waddle, Judy, Ruggs, and Smith, that is, if you total out NFL teams right now, that they could have those 4 guys at wide receiver and spread the football, and you get Tua throwing them the football, it will be the projected number 1 pick. And we know in the NFL today, if you're good enough to play, you will play immediately, you will start immediately, you'll get thrown into the Wolves, whether you're ready or not. And maybe after 7 years, you might have to retire, like Andrew Luck, when you get knocked around on a bad offensive line. But we live in it now. We don't have time. General managers, owners, they don't have time to play games and wait around. And I'm telling you what, and I think most people would say that. One of my favorite parts of the job is to sit there, and when you're a host of a radio show, a lot of times people get into the semantics and, or people get into the fun stories or enjoy it. It is entertaining. It's about the entertainment value. But a a lot of us in the business, we also pay attention to a lot of the games and watch them and come back with about probably 5% of what we talk about. And I watched that Alabama-Clemson game as a broadcaster, and I started my job in play-by-play broadcasting. Had a chance to do some games where, like the movie Dodgeball, they put me on the Ocho, a couple of those games, ESPN3, but got to travel and see a lot of baseball and a lot of college football games. And one of the things, as a former quarterback in high school, I'm just going to throw that out there, although it wasn't a great job, and our team probably could have used anybody else if they could just close their eyes and pointed at the quarterback position. It was probably good that I broke my collarbone after 3 games. But the difference is, when you look right now at college football, one thing I'll tell you about that game, because Alabama, it's not about the whole regular season, unlike a lot of teams where we have to break down every game. We looked at Florida State, and there's about 5 or 6 games that could go either way. There's the games against Virginia's or Virginia Tech's or teams like a Boston College or Syracuse that right now it's the difference between being 8-4, 9-3 and being 4-8. It's just a few plays. Alabama doesn't have to worry about that. Like we said earlier, Alabama had last year a 14-0 season going into that national title game. And they had beaten their opponents by an average of 29 points per game. Their closest game was 22 points in the regular season. More than 3 touchdowns when they played Texas A&M. And I think that's one thing where the regular season, they'll be fine. I don't see them with this schedule pending an injury being worse than 12-0. And that sounds ridiculous, but that's where we're at. But if we had to go back to right now, we're just skipping right to that New Year's. You get ready for 2020, the Pelican drop, having fun. Already a couple of cervezas, the champagne's popping, and we're getting set for a national title game right around the corner. If we sat there and went over for Alabama what they did last year against Sunshine and Clemson, because the score was a little misleading. They did get beat. There was no excuse. There was no going back to the refs. Not like one of those Saints who are still hunting to find the people that will never be at a Mardi Gras parade in Bill Vinovic's crew, who screwed them out of the worst call in the history of the NFL with that PI. None of that. None of this is going on. They clearly got beat, and the fans accept that. But they had 4 times within the red zone where they just tried to run a play right down their throat and it didn't work. Where if I look at that and you design a play to start getting the ball outside, when they threw the ball deep to Judy, when they went deep to Devontae Smith, when they tried to go downfield, almost every time it worked out. And the Crimson Tide receiving corps is the best in college football. And when all is said and done, and I don't throw these things out here just to throw them out there so somebody could fist pump or get excited. If you have your hand on the wheel and you're driving, don't do any of that crap. That's not good, especially in this rain. Don't go, yeah, and put your hand in the air. None of these, if I'm like, close your eyes and picture this, don't actually do that. Don't want to cause an accident on 110, and right now would be the worst time of the day. I'm looking at right now Alabama having the best wide receiving corps in the history of college football if they all can stay healthy. With Judy, Ruggs, Smith, and Waddle, maybe not tight ends because they've had way better tight ends. Forrestall's a bigger, more of a blocking kind of guy, 6'5", 240. He's going to make some plays. But he's no O.J. Howard. But their receivers and Tua, there's a lot of NFL teams that would take that in a heartbeat. Jerry Jeudy is the next. I mean, his size, his speed, he's going to be really something special for a long time in the NFL if he stays healthy. Henry Ruggs, too. And so will Jalen Waddle. And Smith is the one that caught the touchdown as a freshman, true freshman to beat Georgia. So no matter what happens, he's always going to be close to the heart. He's going to be like the reverse Chris Davis moment. Everybody's always going to love good old Devontae Smith and Tua. Somebody out there driving is like, did he have to bring that name up? Did he have to throw that name in our show? Look, that's all at this point, that's one moment from the past, and so many good ones going forward for the Crimson Tide. Number 2 in the preseason poll getting set to go at Duke. It'll be a 2:30 kickoff. You can catch that game right here on ESPN Pensacola 1330 AM and 99.1 FM. We'll have that game in the call as the Chick-fil-A kickoff will be against Duke, a 35-point spread, and I don't think the Crimson Tide have to worry about that. I think they cover and take care of it. If I had to pick a score right now, I'm looking at 58-7, the final score. And frankly, that's just how it's going to go down. The Duke doesn't have Daniel Jones, and it's going to be tough. 3 of the 4 guys on the Crimson Tide are returning in the secondary. The defensive line has a couple new guys, but guys like DJ Dale, these guys are just waiting for the next step to become a guy like a Deron Payne or a Quinnen Williams, a guy that wasn't talked about it like Jonathan Allen was talked about. Wasn't talked about like C.J. Mosley when he played linebacker. A guy that could step in right now, but in the second scrimmage this year of the spring game, right there, or the second scrimmage of spring, people were already talking about him as a true freshman stepping in and being something incredible. He's 6'3", 320 pounds, and he's a true freshman. And he's going to start this year. He's going to get his opportunity. So DJ Dale will just be that next 4 or 5-star guy waiting in the wings to be something special. And that sounds about right from the Crimson Tide. We're coming back. One more segment. It's brought to you by our friends at Gordon Auto Wholesale. Eddie Gordon and the folks out there, huge Alabama fans getting set to go. And just like the Crimson Tide, always expect number one value. Give them a call at 479-9200 as they have customer service that is about as fine as you get in the area. Customers keep on coming back. 2 blocks south of Airport on Old Palafox. Check them out today at Gordon Auto Wholesale. We're coming back for more right here on Roll Tide Radio.
Gordon Auto Wholesale says yes. No credit, bad credit, bankruptcies, no problem. Over 250 vehicles in stock. Third-row SUVs and trucks. Everyone's approved. Gordon Auto Wholesale is the bank and can help you get into a nice, clean vehicle. Carfax checked. Need a new car? Gordon Auto says yes. Can't buy one from the other dealers? Come see Gordon Auto Wholesale on Palafox just 2 blocks south of Airport. Or call 479-9200. That's 479-9200.
Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical, not for sale to minors. Website restricted to adults 21 and over.
Let's be real. Most smokers aren't looking for some overcomplicated vaping machine. That's why we created My Blue. My Blue is simple. Our pre-filled liquid pods mean there's no mess. One charge and My Blue lasts all day. And with our range of flavors and nicotine options, you have a choice. My Blue answers on what matters for smokers. Real nicotine satisfaction.
Find My Blue in a store near you or order online, myblue.com.
The Home Depot's making it easy to turn your favorite moment into the perfect color for any room with the Project Color app. Upload any image, then discover the colors and paint to match. Now you're a swipe and a click closer to everything you need for your next project. Explore the most popular colors and trending palettes to find your perfect paint. Get a colorful new experience with the Project Color app, then shop our best brands with gallons starting from just $24.98 at the Home Depot. More saving, more doing. U.S. only. See store for details.
Talk football every day with Pensacola's own Coach K.
The key on offense is going to be whether Franks can come back and duplicate what he did in the last 4 games.
Every weekday, noon till 1 on ESPN Pensacola, 1330 FM 99.1.
ESPN Pensacola is your home to UWF Argos football. Catch every game, home or away, on Pensacola's home for local sports. ESPN Pensacola 1330 FM 99.1.
Sports are live and local on ESPN Pensacola, 1330 FM 99.1. Be a part of the show. Call or text at 263-1330.
And welcome back. Final segment of Roll Tide Radio goes right here on ESPN Pensacola 1330, 99.1 FM. Chad Brilliante with you here, getting set to go. Coming up will be the Paul Feinbaum Show, the Mouth of the South. We'll talk a little bit that Florida game going on against the Miami Hurricanes. Davis Allen was out there covering the game for us. Enjoyed all of his press conferences, his selfie with Tim Tebow, and more. But the Crimson Tide getting set to go for a big game from a fan base of just wanting to see a blowout victory after what was the Clemson game, and they should expect it. strengths of the Alabama Crimson Tide. Showing up on Saturday. Most teams, what are the breakdowns? Getting off the bus is the strength of Alabama. They get off the bus, it should be a good day after that. As I don't see them losing a game in the regular season. Like we said, last year, closest game, 22 points in the regular season. It shouldn't be much different this year when you look at the schedule. They've got their toughest opponents, like LSU, at home. They do have at Auburn and at Texas A&M, but outside of that, those are the two games you would expect. But two of those games were, according to Las Vegas right now, because of the situation with Auburn trying to figure out their next quarterback, because of the situation with, at this point, Texas A&M being good but not great yet. Those spreads are right around 17 to 20 points. So even the games that are the toughest are 17 to 20. The Duke game, as we said, 55 to 7, 58 to 7, somewhere in that range. It's a 35-point spread. I think they cover that. You can hear that kickoff 2:30 right here on ESPN Pensacola. Nick Saban talked a little bit about the offseason and the identity here in the final few minutes of what his team has to do this week at practice.
Because, football is a funny game. 10 guys can do what they're supposed to do, and if one guy doesn't, play doesn't work. Quarterback gets sacked, somebody's wide open on defense and make a big play. So everybody's got to do their job. It's a great team game, and if you don't want to play it as a team game, then you can go play tennis or golf or something else where it's just about you, and those are great games, and I love them both. And can we win as a team? Can everybody put the team first, play together, do what they have to do to support each other so that we can have great team chemistry? And do we have enough tough guys that are really warrior types in terms of how they compete on a consistent basis so we can sustain the season? So, that's really, where we're at. So, this is the first opportunity this team has to be judged as to how they play and who they are. So, we got lots of work to do, but we're, certainly interested in finding out, like a lot of other folks probably are. Antonio Alfano was back at practice today, and he had a couple days for personal reasons. Ray Rice was out there today. He's going to be here as a Title IX speaker to the team tonight, which I think is a good thing for our players. And we'll continue to work tomorrow, Saturday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, for this game to try to get our players to play really well against Duke, who is a really good team. They won 8 games last year and very well coached, and present some issues and problems scheme-wise that we certainly need to work on.
Coach, we'll start over here on the right.
And there you go. There was Nick Saban. Look, he's always going to say those kind of things. Don't buy into it at the end. They're going to crush Duke. And Duke was a good team last year with Daniel Jones, who was the number 1 quarterback taken off the board to the New York Giants. So not the same team this year. David Cutcliffe, a lot of respect, has been around the SEC, helped Peyton Manning through as their offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach for many years out of Tennessee, and well-respected among his peers, as he should be. So that's probably going to be a handshake or two from him and Saban. They got different hair dyes going on. But overall, it's been pretty exciting. Well, that's all the time we have for today's Roll Tide Radio. We appreciate it's almost fall, like Bridget said, so we're excited. They'll get ready for the Duke game. We appreciate you tuning in. Thanks again for our friends at Gordon Auto Wholesale. Check them out. Give them a call at 479-9200, founding on trust, integrity, and respect. Eddie Gordon, lifetime Alabama fan, and 2 blocks south of Airport on Old Palafox. Check them out today. Over 250 vehicles.
All them dogs are counting down, about to put the anchor down. Hotty toddy, who's it gonna be? Cowbells and swamp, the Aggies wrong. There's nothing like the SEC. The weekend's full of surprise. Hit 'em with the flex. From Williams Price to Death Valley. On the Fine Mom Show, Paul's on the roll. If he don't get the best of me, call Paul.
Alabama. It's your show. Go ahead.
They'll make sense of it all.
You got a damn burn crappy attitude.
Needles up on Rocky Top. The Razorbacks are hard to stop. War Eagles soaring in the wind.
Let me talk.